the physical part of football is still the most important part. When you have two teams that know what they're doing and two teams that have great athletes on both sides, then usually the game is decided by the team that hits the hardest.
Before you can do anything in football, you've got to be able to move from spot A to spot B to hit somebody. Now, once you get there, you want to get there with the most velocity and the most power and the most impact.
All of us in football get a charge out of seeing a guy accelerate while he's tackling instead of, say, just bringing the guy down barely by the shoestring.
Take it.
The rules for playing the game of football allow for a tremendous amount of collision. And this is a collision sport, it's not a contact sport.
If you lose the battle of the hitting, I'm not sure you're going to win the other battle either.
I'll tell you what you better do. I can watch it. You walk around out there with your finger up your and you ain't hitting a damn soul. The name of the game, man, is hit.
It's still a physical game. Let's face that fact, and it always will be. That's what makes people want to play this game, because it is a physical game. It's not touch tag. Let's call it what it is. It's violent, and it's physical.
When a guy gets hit and his headgear pops off, that's part of the game. And that's what people pay money to go see, the great hits.
What a great hit.
Like the history of war, the history of pro football has shown us that strategy cannot succeed without strength. The first pros resembled raw recruits, eager for combat. They lacked polish, but not spit. These flinty-eyed fighters evolved into the fierce free spirits of the 1950s. While the wild-eyed warriors who played the game were often defanged, they never lost their taste for contact. And like a popular rock and roll song of the period, pro football featured a whole lot of shaking going on. Every Sunday, the NFL offered a crunch course in a school of hard knocks where brawn was emphasized over brain. Some sought shelter behind the referee's shirt tails, but the men who wore stripes on the field were no match for men who often behaved like they should have been wearing stripes off the field.
I could do things on the field that I enjoyed doing that I would probably be put in the pokey for if I weren't on the field. Well, not that I'm a flat criminal, but it was a way of expressing yourself.
Fighting, scratching, and kicking were common forms of self-expression. Leg whipping was one of several ploys that are outlawed today, but were acceptable during the 1950s. Grabbing the face mask was another. Defensive aces held all the cards.
The ball was not whistled dead until the forward progress had stopped. not his knee touching the ground. So they were free game. It was kind of open season. If they fell down and were rolling and scratching, trying to get some yardage, God, they would open up on it. That was the only enjoyment linemen would ever have during the whole game.
From the 1950s to the mid-60s, the NFL was not exactly a league of gentlemen. Many players had served in World War II or Korea, and most still had plenty of fight left in them. Few surrendered easily, and it took devious methods to send them to the bench. The dictum, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, was as relevant to the NFL as it was to biblical times.
I never would accept anyone hitting me illegal. Now, when that happens, then you must serve justice. And if you don't know how to serve justice, then you're going to get kicked around the league.
You never hit the guy back. You hit him first, because invariably the noise or commotion that it creates gets the attention of the referee, and then by the time he looks around, he's catching the other guy. So the trick is to hit first, but never hit back. You got time. You got next year, next game, whatever.
Like guided missiles, players carried heavy payloads, and they used their bodies to launch retaliatory strikes with devastating effect. One of the most unforgettable tackles in NFL history occurred in 1960 when Eagles linebacker Chuck Bednarik hit Giants halfback Frank Gifford. Concrete Charlie made quite an impact.
Bednarik's hit on Frank was the greatest tackle I've ever seen. I mean, you know, I used to stay up at nights thinking about hitting a guy like that. Frank was not looking at Bednarik. He should have been looking for him because Charlie could hit, and something's got to give, and it was Frank.
Like a cheap shot? Well, it really wasn't. I mean, Bednarik had to give me a cheap shot, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. He was just a good, solid football player, and a great football player.
During the 1950s, football players had to be solid in order to remain standing in a savage world where only the strong survived.
There wasn't that much dirty play. It was rough. Yeah, they were rough. If they could kill you, they'd kill you honestly. Okay? But nothing dirty. Nothing wrong with drawing a little blood here and there, you know, what the heck.
And I like to think that with that approach to the game, attack, 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 I walked out totally unmarked. And I think that that record in itself, 14 years in the pros and 4 in college and 3 in high school, is second to none. I have no scratches, no marks, and nothing but a bleeding heart.
I think you can coach people to be pretty good tacklers, but I don't know that you can coach people to be great hitters. I think it's an instinct and something that they're born with, that tremendous explosion they have right at the point of impact.
The old saying is, if they don't bite when they're puppies, they're not usually going to bite. And I think when you get a young player and a guy that comes up and in high school he's a pretty good hitter, or in college he's a pretty good hitter, comes into professional football and it just carries forward.
By the time they get to pro football, I think the only thing you control in terms of contact teaching is the emotional side of it. I think if a player is a very intense guy, or the organization becomes more intense on Sunday, the more intense you are, the more apt you are to be a heavy hitter on Sunday.
You have to mentally make yourself ready to go out and realize that it's such a physical game that, you know, it's better to be the hitter than the hittee.
For many, the need to hit is as natural as the need to breathe. But if hitting cannot be coached, what motivates the game's foot soldiers and birds of prey to unleash the special fury that makes them unique?
They are guys that want to leave an impression. They would like to leave a Riddell across someone's chest.
The players that you talk about that are the real hitters, they just enjoy hitting.
They just enjoy going out, and it's the feeling of combat.
The intensity of this feeling can be gauged by the crash landings that resound on a 100-yard-long no man's land. On this tough terrain, quarterbacks are strafed by blindside tackles that can turn the tide of battle. In the NFL's war zones, the most explosive weapon that can be deployed is a man's body.
Certain players have the ability to unleash a tremendous amount of thrust and a tremendous hit at impact. They have the ability to recoil and uncoil.
It's like swinging a golf club. If the club is not reflexing at the right moment, you're not going to get quite the distance on the ball. But if you can hit into a guy and uncoil at the right moment, you explode through him. Neither guy's going to get hurt, but there's going to be tremendous impact.
I think some guys just have a natural ability where they can just right at the impact, right when they got to make that last little move, they have that ability to have that little explosion, what we call it, just kind of roll your rump. They have that ability to just accelerate at the last second. It's boom, you know, it's an explosion.
Such explosions are detonated by defensive players who have only recently earned the kind of superstar status accorded to offensive standouts. This new breed is exemplified by Seattle safety Ken Easley, number 45, and San Francisco cornerback Ronnie Lott, number 42. Lott eyes an opponent's jersey like a bull regarding a red cape.
I just try to look right at his numbers, and most times I try to go right through his number. If it's 87, I'm going right between 87.
This pain-by-numbers approach requires bold strokes. Lott's penchant for punishing foes stems from a combination of extraordinary physical skill and a savage state of mind. These qualities are also evident in Easley's approach to the game.
Well, I'm vicious, no doubt about it. I play the game in a vicious manner. I'm not out there to hurt anyone, but my game is an aggressive type of game.
Easley's aggressive personality is accentuated by his position in the secondary, but such a personality can also be promoted by a team's image. The Raiders have long cultivated a villainous identity, an identity that has brought out the best and the beast in defensive end Lyle Alzado.
Being a Raider is fortunate for me because I have been off-center most of my career, and they've accepted what I am. They know I'm an emotional person. I have this anger in me. I have a very short temper, and I don't particularly like being pushed a certain way or blocked a certain way. And on the field, that I don't really like or trust anybody or anything. And I don't particularly think there's a person on this earth that can kick my
While Alzado, number 77, thrives on playing the role of hard-hearted tough guy, the New York Jets' Mark Gastineau, number 99, has successfully demonstrated that not all sack artists pillage pass pockets with mayhem on their minds.
I don't really visualize killing a quarterback or breaking him in half, and that's why you'll never see me have any really harsh hits on a quarterback, because I'll take a sack any way I can get it, because they're so hard to come by in the NFL.
Gastineau has proved that it isn't necessary to be a bad man or a madman to excel at a physical game. The approaches to hitting are as varied and unique as the men who hit. And the men who hit chart the boundaries on the NFL's crunch course. A pro football field is a crunch course that is filled with danger zones. In football, it's knock the man down or be knocked down, especially for the fearless hitmen who cover kickoffs. Their mission is simple: hit anything that moves.
I like to hit the ball here and hopefully cause a fumble, turnover, something like that. But if I can't get to him, I'm going to hit somebody. I'm not going to run 40 yards without hitting somebody.
When you get hit by these guys, it's like getting hit with a freight train. These guys know how to put every ounce of energy and force behind their tackle or the blow they deliver.
1 yard line, kids up the middle behind the wedge, the 15, and is he ridden down.
This sudden impact makes kickoff coverage nearly impossible to practice.
You can't work at this stuff full speed, guys. We've got to set a tempo where you're programming yourself when you are full speed to do it exactly right.
You cannot expect to give that level in practice. Not in the kickoff coverage, it can't happen. I mean, you wouldn't have anybody left.
All right, pick out your landmarks on the wedge.
You can't practice at that tempo. Because the collisions in games are fantastic. I think there's an awful lot of courage involved. But I like to go back to the men of the 101st and the 82nd Airborne. They said, describe courage. And they said, they're the guys that are afraid, but they go anyway.
Those who operate in this danger zone have elevated tackling to a punishing science. Another area of high impact is the line of scrimmage. It is called the pit, an area not much bigger than a closet. Yet within its confines is the game's most heavily weighted struggle.
In spite of all the specialization, in spite of all the attention that the quarterbacks get, the game is really played up front. More or less right in the trenches, as everyone says, because when you assume and gain control of that part of the field, it allows you to do what you want to do.
It's not so much who gets across the other side the first, it's the force and the power and the balance and the ability to dominate the man after you make contact.
It's a physical combat area. It's not like playing in space. It's not like being detached and running down the field to catch a football. It's not like a linebacker taking a drop and squaring up, playing the ball when it's in the air. This is hit, hit, hit on every play.
The offensive players are like brain surgeon type. They're very careful. And they think things out. Defense, you're a step behind. You have to be over aggressive. You have to attack this man. Keep taunting him, come at him, and then go. Once you get clean and you see this quarterback, you don't carry anything else around. You go right for him and get a good grip on him.
Clash of wills between the offensive line and the defensive line. One player ends up on top or on bottom by the end of the game. The press never writes about it. Nothing is really said about it. But I think both players generally know who would like to have played football for another quarter and who wouldn't.
The line of scrimmage, a no man's land that devours players like the Bermuda Triangle swallow ships. Players have also been known to disappear in the middle of a zone pass defense.
When you come over the middle and you're a guy who only weighs 175 or 180, I think you really do. You take your life in your hands because there's some tremendous shots going on in there.
A person individually names his certain area. I call it the pay dirt area. If he's going to catch it, make him pay for it.
There's just a certain knack that we have where we can just anticipate when that ball's going to hit his hands, and then we're going to make contact right as soon as it touches his hand.
Just as there are ways to intensify a hit, there are also methods to lessen the impact.
One thing that we learned early in Bill Walsh's offense is to read the defense. If it's a zone, sit down. It's not very complicated. Just sit between the two guys and catch it and turn upfield. When you're going across the middle, man to man, you just keep running across because there's nobody there going to meet you. If it's zone defense and you keep running through it, you're going to get hurt because there's going to be somebody there waiting for you. The key example was when Ronaldo got hit in the Atlanta game. He read it too soon. He thought it was man-to-man, and he kept running. It was a zone, and the guy was sitting there waiting for him, and it cost him.
It hurts a lot more when you don't catch the ball. So you should catch the ball. Sometimes you feel you make a halfway decent catch, and you say, you get hit, take a good shot, and get up and say, hey, now I got him thinking, I can take it. It's a battle of the minds.
A football field is a hazardous runway, and those who navigate it must endure many crash landings to earn their wings in the NFL.
Well, a critical part of football is hitting the other man before he's ready for it. And it's just like boxing. If you can beat the man to the punch, even if it's by a quarter of an inch, you've got him beat. So if you're beating the other man to the punch, you're going to win.
Beating a defense to the punch can instantly turn the tables for an offense. However, the ability to strike first requires an aggressive attitude.
I think you got to have offensive people that are just as aggressive as the defensive people are. Or the more people you can get that have that type of temperament, the better football team you're going to be from an offensive standpoint.
A rampaging offense can ravage a defense. More than that, it can incite victory.
I can remember in 1983, a key play for us in the St. Louis game was a 10-yard draw play that Billy Jackson ran in for a touchdown. That was as physical a run as we had all year. And the game was very much in doubt. It was very close. And Billy broke about 4 tackles and finally ran over one last tackler at the goal line to get in. That particular run changed the game for us. It really changed, and it was a physical type play.
Physical play has always been an important offensive weapon in the NFL. In the 1940 NFL Championship, the Chicago Bears burned the Washington Redskins 73-0 after they were ignited by a crushing block.
As a headlinesman, I had to run down the field with Osmanski. It was the second play of the game, and he broke off left tackle and ran 68 yards for a touchdown. And George Wilson, playing right offensive end, came over to the left, took 2 Redskins out with one magnificent block, maybe the greatest block in a championship game to ever be seen, to clear the path for Osmanski. He went 68 yards for a touchdown and broke the game wide open.
During the 1950s, runners who could physically assault a defense not only raised a few bumps, they caused a lot of hard feelings. John Henry Johnson, number 35, was such a fullback.
They'd give a scouting report and say, number 35, John Henry Johnson, he deserves whatever you can do to him. You get him down, stomp him, kick him, do anything, but be very careful. You say, boy, be very careful, you're right. But boy, he could really hurt you.
Once in the secondary, Johnson gave defensive backs the choice of being bruised or buried. It was a choice similar to one offered by Cleveland's Jim Brown. Number 32 was a power runner with a sprinter speed. The tacklers he didn't outrun, he outfought, and his durability made him a bullseye for every defender he faced.
I realized I was a marked man. That works 2 ways. They're going to try to get me, but they're also in awe of me to a certain extent.
everybody wanted to knock him down. He never wore hip pads. He never wore thigh pads. And everybody took their shots at Jimmy. He asked no quarters. He gave no quarters. He got up after every play.
The same cannot be said for many of those he faced. For 9 seasons, Jim Brown swiveled around and bowled over defenders and set new standards of greatness for running backs. While Brown could leave tacklers grabbing for air, Jim Taylor, number 31, left them gasping for air. This Green Bay Packers fullback relied more on power than on speed. Nobody who watched or tried to bring him down ever had any doubt that Taylor was on a punishing crunch course to the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
I think the greatest compliment I can pay Jimmy Taylor was that he would have made a great linebacker. He had the temperament of a linebacker, except he was playing fullback. He did not like to run in an open field. He liked to run through my body. And there's only one way that you could go after him and lower your headgear and your shoulder pad and go into him. I got accused of playing dirty against Jimmy Taylor. I don't think there's any way you play dirty against Jimmy Taylor. It's who plays the dirtiest.
I've seen him jump up and kick Roger Brown or bite him on the leg.
The story is true. He did take a bite out of somebody, that tried to tackle him. And I don't think he, drew blood or anything, but he gave a guy a little bite.
Jim Taylor ran over defenders like a Mack truck and was a prototype for the power runners of the 1980s.
Crank up that diesel. Let's go, diesel.
Runners who deal out such punishment aren't generally known for their longevity. However, there is one exception. He is Walter Payton, the NFL's all-time leading rusher. Since this country first transformed rugby into football more than 100 years ago, no runner has run as far or punished more defenders than Walter Payton.
I enjoy the contact of the game. That's why I was brought up. It's a hitting game, and my position calls for not being hit. When they hit you as hard as they can, and then you pop back up, then they go, oh my God. I tried to kill this guy, and I didn't hurt him. I just might as well, it's going to be like this all day. I just might as well just tackle him and get him down.
Just getting Payton down has never been as easy as it sounds. For over a decade, number 34 has been stiff-legging through the minefield at the line of scrimmage before exploding into the secondary. Coaches long ago recognized him as much more than another runner with a nifty stutter step and power.
Walter Payton, normally if he's trapped at the end of a run, if you watch him, instead of him looking for a place to go, he will turn at that defender, and lots of times he's dishing out punishment. I mean, he'll take a shot at somebody even though he's got a ball in his hand.
He's one of these guys that says, I'm going to get you before you get me. And that's the way he plays.
It's always within the rules. He just is going to get every inch he can. He doesn't like to run out of bounds with the football, and he's going to make the guy tackle him pay the price. think that's what it's all about. I mean, if the guy is willing to stick his nose in there, then he's got to feel what it's like really to tackle the best.
And he hits harder than any man in football for his size. And he also plays so aggressively that he's able to take a man on one-on-one physically and beat him, or he can make the man miss. So this is the fiercest competitor in football.
He enjoys being the hitter. He enjoys knocking defensive backs over, running through linebackers. I think this is part of his game that he enjoys probably more than all the records that he's accomplished.
My college coach said, why accept all the punishment? Once you have that ball, you know, you have the shoulder pads on, you have the helmet. Instead of taking it, try to dish it out. As I run on the football field, I look at the position that I'm in, so that's why you see me change directions or make the stutter step or whatever, is to give me that timing that I want so that when I'm hit, it's not that I'm off balance or whatever, that I'm in stride and I know what's going and I got all the timing now.
During his remarkable career, Walter Payton has missed only one game. The only thing greater than his talent is his heart, and it has driven him to the summit of pro football.
I started in Mississippi running the levees and in the sand along the Pearl River. Then I moved here. Then I started to look for something that was the same to that. And the hill running, it's been good for me.
Payton's off-season workouts are so grueling, they take over an hour to complete and more than a day to recover from. The NFL record book may never recover. He'll fight you, he'll test you, he'll give you his best and see what you've got for an answer. He's the king of hearts. In October of 1984, Walter Payton needed only 66 yards to become the game's all-time leading rusher. And he leaped at the chance to solidify his place in the history of the National Football League.
McMahon asked for quiet. Second play of the second half from the 21-yard line. Walter needs 2 to break the record. High formation, quick pitch to Walter, looking for the record, cuts back. He's got it! He's out of it at 25 to the 26-yard line. Walter Payton becomes the National Football League all-time leading rusher, surpassing Jim Brown.
Walter Payton, one of a proud few who have conquered the NFL's crunch course.
Yeah, but Brown left.
Some of the toughest, meanest men on the NFL's crash course played linebacker.
Keep it up, stick it down there.
Pittsburgh's Bill Saul, number 50, fit the mold perfect.
That 24 is a little let's wrap him.
Even after the final gun sounded, Saul maintained his nasty disposition.
Thank you. We're not allowed, boys. We're not allowed. Don't bug me.
But Saul was a pussycat in comparison to the monstrous presence of Ray Nitschke.
It wasn't a Jekyll Hyde presence, it was just Hyde. It was just total absence of any concern or compassion for another human being.
During his 15 seasons with the Green Bay Packers, Nitschke proved that there was no room in a linebacker's personality for compassion. Nitschke played in a bloody rage, as did Chicago's Dick Butkus.
Here we go, Andy. All right, shift 44 to a 56 stack, pop.
Butkus was that rarity in professional sports, an athlete who attained legendary status during his career.
Butkus would follow a man up in the stands and hit him. He would follow him up in the tunnel in the Coliseum. I've seen him do it. You run out of bounds, you're gonna run right out with it.
He honestly believed in the theory that, hey, if I can hit you hard enough, not only your hat will come off, but your head will come off. And he damn near tried to do that every time he hit somebody.
I don't go to the movies too often, but one particular movie that stands out in mind was with Betty Davis. I think it was Hush, Hush, Sweet Charlotte. I got kind of a charge when that head come rolling down the stairs. I kind of like to sit there and watch it, see things happen, and maybe project those things happening on a football field, and not to me.
He didn't like anybody with a different colored jersey. I mean, he really disliked you. You know, he went after you like he hated you from his old neighborhood. He was the meanest son of a I've ever seen in my life. Played professional football.
Dick Butkus was the greatest linebacker who ever played pro football. But the first to bring notoriety to the position was the New York Giants' Sam Huff, number 70. He was the subject of a TV documentary that demonstrated to millions that the linebacker's world was a violent one.
What do you do that for, 88? You do that one more time, 88, I'm going to sock you one. Don't do that. You run again, you get a broken nose. Don't do that. Hit me on the chin with your elbow.
Today's linebacker still inhabits a violent world. And interestingly enough, the game's best also wears a Giants uniform.
Hey, 88, I'm not going to warn you no more now.
He is number 56, Lawrence Taylor.
Listen, look, we got to rush him. We got to kick the what we got to do is get in and get the all right, let's go. Come on now. 3-0. Hey, we're a bunch of bad summer just play some ball.
I really feel a linebacker has the type of person that keeps the team together. The linebacker has to be somewhere in the middle. He has to be tough enough to play the run, graceful enough to play the pass, and mean enough to knock a runner out.
Taylor plays on the outside, but he's always in the center of the action. Taylor is a portrait of barely controlled fury, a man whose play is ruled by his extraordinary athletic ability and his emotions.
Just knowing we have to go out there and play is good enough for me to get ready to play a game. You know, I enjoy it, and that's what I look forward to every Sunday, is going out there and playing football.
Taylor not only terrorizes opponents,
let's go, D.
He intimidates them.
Yeah, stick. Yeah, you mine. You mine, baby.
He's got a relentless personality. He will stay on you, and he will stay after you.
Hey, come on, baby. You can't pussyfoot up in there. You got to run it. You got to run it. Way to go, Cawthorn.
The more threatened he feels, the more competitive he becomes.
If I don't get 4 sacks tonight against this summer, dog, God. You mine, Ryan. You mine.
It's a confidence born of demonstrated ability. He thinks that he can will anything to happen on the field. And for the most part, it's true.
Homeboy, we can't play that stuff over here. Y'all gonna have to go to the other side.
Lawrence Taylor's probably the best defensive player in the game, and you have to game plan to stop him. You know, there's no doubt about it that he is that kind of player. You have to be ready to play against him.
They grab him. They push him. They hold him. They double team him. And there are some who don't go by the book when trying to stop him.
Leg with my and that's something. I'm gonna break his neck. He wait till Hey, Shula, you better hope I never get back in there. I will kick your
And Lawrence Taylor can make good on a threat.
Don't get up. You didn't have to do that. Hey, you just play, baby. Just play.
He's changed the game of football because he's just so dominating. It used to be that you say, well, our back blocks him, and we go ahead and throw the pass. If you get a back blocking Lawrence Taylor, you lose. You're going to lose a ball game, and it's been proven. He's beaten a lot of people.
They start out blocking him with the back, and they move to a guard, and then they put the tackle on him. He runs over all of them, and he continues to run clear to the other side of the field and chase the play. You know, you expect the guy to dog it once in a while, you know, loaf from side to side, give up on a play, but he just does not do that.
You really enjoy watching him play. I mean, he is a real joy to watch because the guy goes 150%.
Like all great athletes, Taylor's playing style is a reflection of his personality.
I play linebacker like my lifestyle is. You know, I'm pretty freewheeling, you may say, wild, abandoned, reckless, as the coach probably would say.
Hey, baby, let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs and have some fun.
It suits me pretty well, and I enjoy it.
Taylor's enjoyment comes at the expense of those who don't have quite as much fun when he's on the field.
Son, I gotta do better than this.
Players like Lawrence Taylor prove that pro football will always be a hitter's game, a game of guts and guile, played by men who deserve the respect and admiration of fans everywhere. These men put their bodies on the line in the most demanding contact sport there is to travel the rugged landscape that is the NFL's Crunch Course.